The clock radio glowed 12:17 a.m., its harsh green digits cutting through the dark of our bedroom. I lay on my side, facing away from the door, feigning sleep, but inside I was vibrating with tension. I'd been awake for hours, replaying the same image over and over. Her car pulling into the driveway 10 minutes earlier than she'd said she'd be home from her shift at the hospital. 10 minutes earlier, but it might as well have been a lifetime. When the mattress dipped beside me under her weight, it felt alien, unwelcome. The familiar sound of her clothes rustling as she slipped beneath the covers, a sound that used to soothe me, now only scraped raw at my nerves. My whole body was locked tight, like one wrong move might shatter me into pieces. I could taste the sharp, metallic bitterness of anger at the back of my throat. I held still, breathing shallowly, while she settled next to me, a trespasser in what was once ours. Then, a sound, a soft gasp, a sharp inhalation, her breathing catching before stopping altogether. For a heartbeat I almost reached for her. Instinct, muscle memory. But the memory of those text messages I'd found, the ones I was never meant to see, drowned that impulse in ice. She'd found the letter. I turned to face her. Moonlight washed over her face, pale and ghostly, her eyes wide with something I'd never seen in them before, fear. She clutched a single sheet of paper like it burned her fingers. Her lips trembled as she read the words I had chosen so carefully, carved out of the hollow ache in my chest. The letter wasn't about fury, not really. It was about the emptiness. The way our home had lost its warmth, how trust had shattered into dust. It told her about the nights I lay awake feeling like a stranger in my own marriage. And it ended with one line, simple and devastating. I know about him. She looked up at me then, eyes shining with panic. How do you know? She whispered, voice thin as paper. Does it matter? I said. My voice was flat, drained. I'd imagined this confrontation 100 different ways, screaming, throwing things, breaking down. But here, in the moment itself, I was cold. Steady. She didn't reply. She just stared at the letter as if it held some key to undoing what she'd done. It doesn't matter anymore, I said quietly. I've known for weeks. The late shifts that weren't. The whispered phone calls. The perfume that wasn't mine. It's over, ally. Tears streamed silently down her face. Please, Steve. Please don't. I made a mistake, she choked out. A mistake? I echoed, the word bitter on my tongue. No, ally. This wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. One you made again and again. Betraying me. Betraying us. And now you have to live with it. I swung my legs over the edge of the bed, pulling on my clothes. The silence was thick, full of everything we weren't saying. The woman sitting there was a stranger, unrecognizable from the wife I thought I knew. Where are you going? She asked finally, her voice small. To see someone, I said, tying my shoes. I didn't explain. I didn't have to. She knew. The drive to his house was a blur, headlights smearing across wet pavement. Every mile felt like another twist of a knife. By the time I parked outside, my hands were trembling. My knuckles turned white from gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my hands ached. My fingernails pressing into the leather like tiny anchors trying to hold back the storm raging inside me. Anger boiled in my chest, a wildfire consuming every rational thought, every shred of patience I had left. My heart pounded in my ears, each beat echoing with the betrayal I had just discovered. Every memory of Ali's smile, every shared laugh, every quiet moment we had once treasured now seemed like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. I could feel the heat of rage crawling up my neck, pooling in my stomach, making my vision narrow and my thoughts tunnel toward only one purpose, confrontation. When he finally answered the door, wearing a t-shirt and shorts, his face stretched into that infuriating, smug grin, the world seemed to tilt. I had seen that expression before, in the photos on Ali's phone. Cocky, unrepentant, completely at ease with his audacity. He was everything I despised, everything I had fought against in myself for years, now standing in front of me like a grotesque mirror reflecting the betrayal that had invaded my life. He exuded arrogance, an unearned confidence that made my blood boil further. I was no longer young and foolish. I had lived, learned, carried responsibility, and now I felt the weight of all that experience pressing down on this moment. Can I help you? He asked, that same smug grin plastered on his face, as if I were some trivial annoyance, some unimportant intrusion into his life. I stepped closer, my shadow falling over him, my voice low and deliberate, vibrating with threat. "I'm Steve, Allie's husband." The color drained from his face almost instantly. That arrogance, that self-satisfied ease, crumbled into a flicker of fear, as though he had only just realized the gravity of what he had done. He recoiled, his hand moving toward the door to shut it. But I was faster, my foot jamming the door open before he could escape. I stepped inside, and the air between us seemed to thrum with tension. The animalistic fury I had been suppressing all these weeks surged forward, raw and unrelenting, and it felt as though it had been waiting for this very moment to explode. "You've been sleeping with my wife," I said, each word measured, deliberate, laced with venom. I watched his face, trying to see the slightest flicker of shame, the recognition of the wrong he had done. But instead, he stammered, tried to deny it, tried to twist his way out of the truth, but I wasn't listening. I grabbed him by the collar, pulling him close, letting my presence press the weight of my anger against him. "You think you can just walk into someone else's life, take what's not yours, and get away with it?" My voice trembled, not with fear, but with the intensity of a rage that had been simmering far too long. His eyes widened, the first real acknowledgement of guilt, and I could see his mind racing, looking for an escape that didn't exist. I could smell the faint scent of his cologne, the sweat forming on his brow, the panic rising as I closed the space between us. The room felt smaller, the walls pressing in, my heartbeat deafening in my ears. Words no longer mattered. I let the fury take over completely. I struck him repeatedly, my knuckles splitting, blood mingling with the sweat of exertion, until he was curled on the floor, groaning, trembling, broken. Each blow was a release, a physical exorcism of the pain, frustration, and betrayal I had carried silently. And yet, as satisfying as it felt, a part of me recoiled, horrified by my own actions. I had crossed a line, but the compulsion to make him feel even a fraction of what I had endured overpowered any sense of restraint. Finally, I stepped back, leaving him broken on the floor, and walked out into the cool night. The air was sharp against my skin, crisp and almost cleansing, and for a fleeting moment, I felt free. The rage ebbed, replaced by an emptiness I hadn't anticipated. Revenge had been mine, yes, but the hollow ache of betrayal remained, gnawing at the edges of my soul. I had struck, punished, and yet nothing was repaired. Nothing was restored. The weeks that followed were a blur. Legal papers, lawyer consultations, endless phone calls. Allie moved out, her absence an echoing void in the apartment we had once called home. She tried to reach out, to explain, to apologize, but I couldn't bear it. I couldn't face the sound of her voice, the sight of her eyes, the faint hope that perhaps something remained between us. I replayed the image of her clutching that letter, her terror-stricken face, over and over. It haunted me, a ghost of the life we had lost, of trust irreparably broken. The news spread quickly through our small town. Gossip traveled faster than any truth could, and soon, everyone knew. Friends abandoned her. Those who had once stood beside her now whispered behind her back. The life she had built, so easily risked for fleeting desire, collapsed around her. His life, too, became a cautionary tale. The town turned against him, stripping him of reputation, connections, and dignity. He became a pariah, shunned, avoided, a living warning to anyone who might tread the same path. As for me, the world saw a different story. I became the sympathetic figure, the wronged husband, a man who had endured betrayal and carried himself with stoic strength. People offered condolences, admiration, support. But beneath that surface, I felt hollow. I went through the motions of life, work, bills, routines. But every action felt mechanical, devoid of true feeling. My heart ached, torn from me, leaving an emptiness that no revenge, no sympathy, no validation could ever fill. Even now, years later, the phantom pain lingers. Sometimes I find myself lying awake at night, questioning where it all went wrong. When did the distance grow between us? When did love fade into resentment, into silence, into betrayal? Even with the passage of time, clarity remains elusive, leaving only memory, regret, and the shadow of what might have been. And sometimes, in the quiet, I wonder if the wounds ever truly heal. or if they simply become a part of who you are, a constant reminder of the fragility of trust, love, and the human heart.